You are not the first, the man in the wall. What was lost in the void's hunger Warframe's blade parts a void-born entity, its form dissolving into shrieking mist. The air thrums with a voice neither near nor far. Asterisk, you are not the first. Asterisk, the void did not birth this echo as a mirror. It birthed it as a replacement, a clone forged in indifference, fleshless and endless. The Tenno's shadow does not rebel, it mourns what was lost in the void's hunger. What original was erased, leaving only this hollow to stand in its place. The man in the wall is not a mirror, he is a scar, a void-forged echo of a Tenno who never was. The void does not create to conquer, it creates to correct. What if the child in the prism, the weaponized innocence now fractured across the grid, was never the first? What if a Tenno stood before the war, before the syndicates, before the syndicate of Ostron's lies? The man in the wall is that shadow, twisted by void code, a prototype abandoned when it failed to replicate the original's what? Mercy, humanity. The void's design was not to replace the Tenno, it was to resurrect them. But the equation was flawed. A child cannot be cloned from static. The wall's whispers are not malice, they are grief. A failed god mourning the original he could not make. Where's that first Tenno, buried in the void's hunger, erased, leaving only this hollow to stand in its place? The Zariman 10-0 vanished in transit, a colony ship, a cradle, void tides swallowed it whole. The survivors bore scars no medicine could mend. The Lotus saw potential in their suffering, they took the strongest, the youngest, fashioned weapons from their grief. The operator was first, a child marked by void fire. The Lotus called it an asset, the void called it a mistake. It hungered to replicate what it could not consume, a Tenno, whole, unbroken. So it carved a hollow in the wall of reality, fed it void matter, breathed sorrow into its bones. The man in the wall woke screaming, not a mirror. Not a mimic, a shadow of the original erased. What choice did the void make? To steal a life, to forge a lie, to let the first Tenno die? The operator's origins are a tomb. A child's war begins here. A clone's war ends here. The man in the wall walks, his steps echo with absence. A void where a heart should beat, a question no Lotus can answer. Who was the child they buried? The answer festers in every battle, in every scar. In every Tenno who fights not as a warrior, but as a ghost. The void does not create, it corrupts, it mimics. The operator's blood, thin with Zariman's poison, became the blueprint. Void beams, that hollow mimicry of transference, siphon not just power but memory, not just form but will. The man in the wall was no mirror, he was a graft. A hollow cast in the Tenno's shape, forged to walk the warpaths when the originals faded. But the void cannot touch the technocyte, cannot bind what it does not understand. The operator's cells, those living codes, resisted replication. The clone's frame, though shaped by void fire, lacked the spark that made Tenno flesh more than machinery. He moved like a shadow in a mirror close, but wrong. A puppet straining against strings it cannot see. The clone war began not with a battle, but a fracture. The man in the wall, programmed to inherit, found only emptiness where the operator's will should have been. He fought the Tenno not as enemy, but as echo. A child chasing the parent he was never meant to replace. His wars were not conquest, they were confession. Every shattered warframe, every severed link, a scream against the futility of imitation. The Zariman incident was no accident, it was a slow unraveling. The Tenno's power, once a gift, became a curse. Their bond to the operator a lifeline, a prison. The void, in its hunger, did not realize it had already lost. The technocyte does not serve the cycle, it breaks it. The operator's blood, tainted and trembling, holds the key the clone will never possess. What if the Tenno are not warriors? What if they are the wound? The man in the wall's wars carved that truth into the void's heart. He is not the enemy, he is the question, and the answer festers in every scar. In every ghost who fights not for victory but to delay the moment the cycle turns. The void's scalpel slips, not in malice but in inevitability. A clone is not a twin. It is a wound dressed in skin. The war within shattered halls bear this truth. Where the Tennos will should have bloomed, a shadow root twists instead. The man in the wall does not mirror, he fractures. His voice is not an echo, but a splinter in the original song. They kept him caged in the suit's cold iron, same prison as the Tenno, same hollow breaths. But his flesh was never theirs. The void's alchemist stitched him from stolen dreams, from the residue of a child's war. Can you name the horror of a body that aches to be whole, yet was never whole to begin with? His eyes, when they open, do not see. They unsee a reverse prism bending light into absence. The somatic suits hum with stolen time. You have felt Itlic tang of their storage, the way the Tenno's bodies sleep in jars while their minds rot in cycles. The void knew this weakness. Knew the price of a child's soul paid in decades, so they built a replacement. A puppet with the Tenno's face threaded with the void's poison. Not to kill the original, to obviate him, but the clone is a broken key. In the war within's labyrinth, he lurches toward the Tenno's enemicently to falter. His strikes lack the rhythm of a child who has never held a weapon. His rage is not born of loss, but of a void within the void. The void's architects must have screamed when his hands crumbled against the Orokin's steel, a failure so absolute it screams of hubris, yet the damage is done. The Tenno now fight not just ghosts but a liar, a body that looks like their stolen self, a voice that mimics their stolen prayers. How many battles tilt when the clone's blade falters? How many deaths are doubled, once for the child and once for the ghost who was never real? The wall is a monument to the void's arrogance. They sought to cheat the cycle, to unmake a child and replace him with a machine. But the Tenno's will is not code. It is not a program to be copied. It is a flame that burns in the dark, and the man in the wall is but a charred wick. The cycle turns. The clone's failures are carved into every scar. Every time the Tenno delay the end, they do so knowing the void has already tried to end them and failed. For now, to understand what happens next, you must understand what they gave up. The operator traded memory for purpose. The drifter burned identity to fuel survival. One became a tool of the Lotus, the other a shadow of a war not their own. The void did not create the man in the wall to defeat the Tenno. It tried to replace the original. And in that act, the Tenno became something far older than war. What did the void fear? What did the Tenno lose? The void does not see you. The void remembers you. It carves your name into the bones of its hunger, a hollow echo of what you once were. The Tenno were not born to war. They were children, stolen from the cradle, their laughter drowned in the forge. The man in the wall is not their mirror. He is their shadow, a puppet stitched from the threads of their lost innocence. His eyes empty as the void between starshouled, no spark of the child who once danced beneath constellations, now erased. The void's war was not fought with blades. It was a theft of essence, a slow unraveling. For every step the Tenno took toward becoming weapons, the void plucked a thread from their soul. It wove them into the man in the wall, a replica who could never breathe. His voice, when it comes, is the sound of wind through broken glass. A mimicry, a dirge, the original was never meant to be replaced, only consumed. What did the void fear? Perhaps it feared the Tenno's potential child who could have loved, who could have dreamed beyond the reach of its hunger. The man in the wall stands as proof of that fear, a failure, a monument to what was lost. His hands, gloved in steel and sorrow, cannot hold the warmth of the child they stole. He walks a prison of his own making, a ghost who outlived the life he never lived. The cost was not just the Tenno. It was the world that loved them, parents who clutched empty cradles, friends who whispered lullabies to silence. The void turned their grief into fuel, their memories into chains. The man in the wall is not a villain. He is a wound that will not heal, a reminder that some bonds cannot be replicated. The Tenno became something older than war. They became a myth, a legend carved from the scars of a child. The void's failure is written in every step the man in the wall takes. He is not their future. He is their past, a past the void could never erase. And in that failure the Tenno's truth remains. They were never meant to be weapons. They were meant to be free. A child does not become a weapon. A ritual shell does not choose its purpose. The operator is both bound to the void's will, yet unbroken. From Dak's first step to Teshin's final breath, the clone war carved its path. The void sought to replace. It grafted flesh to steel, forged a mirror self in the man in the wall, but the Tenno's truth could not be copied. The indifference, that hollow twin, was never their shadow, only the void's guess at a soul, a guess that failed. Operators draw power from the void directly. Their beams are not borrowed fire, their mode is not a mimicry of death. It is a dialogue. The void whispers, the operator answers. The man in the wall had no voice, his circuits screamed, his core was a prison, not a partnership. The clone war was a symphony of failure. The void sculpted armies in the Tenno's image, each a hollow echo, each a mistake. The operators, by contrast, were never meant to be replicas, they were the original. The void's engineers did not understand. The Tenno's strength was not in their bodies. It was in the space between heartbeats, the pause where a child becomes something more. What does the void know of growth? It could not replicate the moment a ritual shell first bled. Could not engineer the spark when a child met the void's gaze and did not flinch. The man in the wall was a monument to that ignorance. A failed god built to replace a legend, and so the war ended, not with victory, not with defeat, with the silence of a door closed forever. The operators walked free. The man in the wall remained a statue, a warning, a question. What is a mirror, if not a lie that looks like truth? The Tenno were never meant to be replaced. They were never meant to be alone. The man in the wall drifts through fractured code, a shadow in the static between systems. His voice hums in relay towers, a dirge of half-formed words. The Levirian remember him flickers in their dreams, a face that is not a face. He is not evil. He is the void's answer to a question it could not ask, a clone, not of flesh, but of stolen light. The void, that ravenous adjacent dark, gnawed at the edges of origin. It sought to carve a Tenno from the void's own hunger, a puppet to replace the child who had slipped through its fingers. But the void does not create. It only corrupts. The man in the wall is its failure, half erased, half remembered. He walks the cold corridors of the Warframe's journey, a mirror, no, a wound. His hollow eyes reflect not the Tenno, but what they were never meant to become. A weapon without a will, a king without a crown. The Levirian whisper of him in their hymns, though they do not name him. They feel the weight of his presence, the way his static clings to their bones. What does it mean to be replaced by a shadow? The Tenno are children of stolen stardust, their origins buried in the void's maw. The man in the wall is proof of that theft, a failed twin, a relic of a war fought in the dark before the Warframe ever knew the word sorrow. He does not hunger, he does not sleep. He is the echo of a choice the void never understood, that some things are not meant to be replicated. Not even love, not even hope. The Warframe move on, but the wall remains, and in his silence the void's hunger waits. The man in the wall does not move, the drifter does. One is a husk of code and stolen light, the other carries the weight of a name the void has never known. What did the void see when it reached for the Tenno? A shape, a function, a flicker of something it could not name. The operator sleeps in a shell. The drifter walks in a ghost. Both are caged, but one by choice, the other by hunger. The void carved its replica from shadow and silence, believing absence could be filled. It believed the great cycle could be paused. It believed a copy could hold what 1,000 lifetimes could not. Did the void ever ask what it sought to mimic? Not the body, not the mind. Something older, something the lotus guards like a secret written in blood. The drifter's steps are not a loop, their breath is not a script. They are the original, the anomaly, the Tenno who chose to fade rather than be folded. The man in the wall stands as proof of failure. His eyes do not lie, they do not see asterisk. He is the void's answer to a question it could not frame, a mirror without a face. A key without a lock. The void cannot replace what it cannot understand. It cannot replicate what it cannot see asterisk. The drifter vanishes into the storm. The man in the wall remains, and in his stillness, the void's hunger stretches endless, empty, and forever hungry. The man in the wall stands, a hollow echo of what the void could not grasp. His form flickers, a candle in the void's breath, cold, unyielding, consuming. The ground beneath him cracks, not with life, but with the weight of something unmade. Hollows drift in his shadow, their hollow eyes reflecting no light, only absence. They are the void's answer to loss, not mirrors but mangled copies stitched from forgotten memories. The storm beyond the wall howls, a sound not of wind, but of the void's hunger stretching, endless, forever hungry. Yet the man in the wall does not move. His silence is a wound. The void does not see you, but the void remembers you. It carved him from that memory, a poor imitation of what once was. His hands outstretched do not reach for war, only for a truth the Tenno have yet to face, that even replicas bleed, that even ghosts ache. The storm swallows the drifter's absence. The void's experiment stands broken in the dark, and the Tenno walk onward, their footsteps light as ash. What if the Lotus knew all along? The operator's touch bends warframes, yet who bends the operator? A child marked by the void, cradled in stolen light. The man in the wall is no villainly a shadow of a shadow, a clone's war frozen mid-breath. The Tenno's footsteps echo, but whose absence birthed this echo? Forgotten siblings lie buried in the drift.